First question, were you ever stuck in a job that you didn't enjoy? Yes. I like my job, but I feel like there's more out there. Like I need to find what I love and am passionate about and chase it relentlessly. Do you have any advice? I mean, I feel like this person just answered their own question, which is like you need to find what you love and are passionate about. Everybody, I think, has been in a job that they don't love. And I actually think it's fairly dangerous and you're not in touch with yourself if you haven't been in a job that you don't love. I also think that you can have a job that you don't have to love all the time. Everybody doesn't like their job sometimes. I don't like my job sometimes. I've been here 6 years. There's been plenty of times where I don't like my job. But when you systemically don't like your job, then you have a choice. And the choice is, do you settle? And you're like, I don't care. I love my life outside of work. I love my workout routine. I love time with my friends. I love where I live. I love the type of money that I make. And you're satisfied in settling with the job you have? Or are you the type of person who's like, I want to have a job that like lights me on fire and that makes me feel fulfilled and that inspires me and pushes me? I've always tried for the latter, but I also really, frankly, understand the former. I think the second thing is a lot of people get caught up in wanting a job that is tied to a subject matter you're interested in. And I think that's super limiting. I actually don't agree with that. Like just because you love sports doesn't mean that you should work in sports marketing. Lucky people are able to find those two things. But I really think the notion of finding a job that you're passionate about and you love comes down to what is it that you like about work and what is it that you love to do? Do you love to work with other people? Do you love to close deals? Do you love to keep things neat and organized? Do you love to communicate? Like, what are the things you love to do? So write those things down, wrap those things up, and then go apply to 10 jobs and at least start the interview process to see if you can find a job that inspires you and that you love and that fulfills you. Second question, how do you evaluate compensation as part of the job offer? Money isn't everything, but how can you evaluate when it is? Okay, great question. So compensation matters, right? You work and you only have, 24 hours in a day, and there is only a certain amount of money that you're going to make for those 24 hours. So there's all sorts of different criteria that you can have in choosing a job. But money is certainly one of them. And if money is the most important thing, then you're going to figure out a way to make the most amount of money for that 24-hour period possible. What I would do if I were looking for a job is I would do as much research as you can about how someone in that position is paid. Are they base and bonus? Is there an equity component? Is there a profit share? Like, how does someone in this type of role get paid? I would do as much research as you can about what the salary bands typically are for that type of job. So I think there's all sorts of sites where you can do that. You can probably look at Glassdoor. You can go on all these websites that can give you a sense of, hey, this is how much you make when you are a first year sales executive in the pharmaceutical industry, or you're an agency planner, right? Like you can find out generally this is how much these people make. I also think that during your interview process, it's important to get a sense of what is the pay range for this role. Now, there's all sorts of rules about what the hiring manager can ask you. I don't actually know if there's many rules about what an employee can ask a hiring manager, but you want to get a sense of how the role is compensated, and you want to map that to what your goal is for that 24-hour period. And then I think the most important thing is to stick a number in your head that you can live with and that you can be happy with. And if you have that number in your head, then you put that number forth. And that number could be twice the amount of money as you're making now. That number could be less than you're making now. That number could be the same exact number as you're making now. But have the number in your head. Get that number after you've done your research. So your number, you're not like, hey, I'm a junior agency planner and I think I should be making $1 million. Like nobody's going to fucking pay you that. But get a sense of context, and then put a number that you can live with and be happy with, and then put that number forth to the person you're interviewing with. Don't do it too early, don't do it too often, but find the right moment where you can articulate how much you feel like you need to make to be in this position. And then that is the place where the conversation starts. Be firm, be clear, have the right justification for that number, and be receptive to the feedback, right? You may not get the job because you priced yourself out of the range, and you got to be cool with that. So whatever the number is you choose, you got to say, if they pay me less than this, I'm not going to take the job. So make sure you have that conversation with yourself before you have the conversation with the company. But that's how I would evaluate what compensation looks like. The other thing you can do if you're trying to understand relative offers is when you go out to find a new job, go look at 3 different companies in the same space and get a sense of what the salary ranges are for each one of them. You know, what I always found is if you're at a hot startup, they're going to pay you less, or if you're at a cool brand, they're going to pay you less than the stodgy old company, but it's going to be a better experience, right? It's going to have more perks, it's going to be cooler. Companies generally know when they're hot or not, and they pay accordingly. But you're going to have a sense of context of, hey, if there's 4 companies in this category or sector, you can know the range of the low end is this and the high end is that, and you can decide where you want to be. And then it also helps you give a little bit of weight to not only how much money you can make for that 24-hour period, but what do you want that 24-hour period to be like? And depending on what you value most, that helps you get to a number that you can live with and make sure that you have a life that you want and a salary that you're comfortable with. I recently went through 2 interviews for a life-changing job. The first one went super well. I was very confident. The second one, I was a little bit more intimidated. I was meeting with 2 execs that I'd be working for. They seemed very nice and down to earth. I don't think I showed them that I was intimidated, but at the end of it, in one of my answers, I lost my train of thought and I told them that I had a brain fart. I guess that it showed that I'm real. I sent them both a thank you email the following morning individually and have connected with them both on LinkedIn. Anyway, is there anything else I can do to stick out more and to show them I'm the right choice for the job, or do you think I've done what I can? I don't want to be annoying. Ooh, okay, everybody has brain farts. I have like 6 brain farts an hour. I think it's a little bit hard because you already reached out to them and you don't want to seem like you're overthinking it or you're too eager or you're a psycho. But I think one thing you could have done, or if you find the opportunity you still can do, is to say, hey, you asked me this question. I think I could have given you a better answer than I gave you in the room, and this is what the answer would be. So I guess my advice is you've done the right thing. You've sent a thank you note. You've followed up with them. If you want to go the extra mile and not too much time has passed, it's kind of like when you overthink yourself in a relationship and then you act like you let that psycho part of yourself out of your head and then you're like, oh my God, I got to reel it back in. You don't want to be that person. But I also think it could be appropriate for you to say, I've given more thought to the conversation we had. I really wished I had conveyed this to you. And with regard to the question you asked me, I really would want you to know that this is how I would solve that problem, or this is how I would think about that situation. So that's how I would approach that. Honestly, if they're not going to hire you, they're not going to not hire you because you had a brain fart. Everyone on the planet has brain farts. So you're not going to not get the job because of that. But I also think there's a good lesson to learn in that when you're interviewing, you have to have your A game on. Like, you have to stay focused. You have to be on point. You got to be in the middle of answering one question. You got to be thinking about what your question is back to them. So if you don't get this job, then let it be a learning lesson about how to focus in and how to stay present and how to stay committed to the things you want to convey when you're in an interview.